welcome to today's video. And in today's video, we will be looking at which states really are battlegrounds in this election, because the political landscape of America in general has changed a lot. And while there are still some battleground states that will not be classified as battleground states in this thing, we are generally looking at only battleground states for this election. It's not battleground states in America in general, just for the presidential election. And some states here might be battleground states, might have been battleground states last year, might be battleground states, or last election, might be battleground states next election, but might not be battleground states this election. And I will be labeling some traditionally battleground states as not battleground states. And as you can see here, I've labeled just about every safe state to the extent where there are the most empty safe areas as I could do with still keeping it making sense whatsoever. So yeah, we're just going to move geographically, and before we start though, I just want to clarify what we're looking at for a battleground state. It's not necessarily a state that's going to have close margins, but a state that we could be fairly sure about who's going to win, but we're not 100% sure, and it would make sense if the other candidate were to win in that state. So we're going to start off Nevada. Traditionally a battleground state. Hillary won it in 2016. Joe Biden's leading by a fair portion. I don't think that Donald Trump really has a chance in Nevada, so I'm going to label that as a Joe Biden state. And also, states that might be likely lanes, even tilt states, if for some reason we weren't to label it as a battleground state, we're just going to label them all as safe states. Next, state of Arizona. This state's traditionally Republican, but it's definitely a battleground state this year. I expect for Joe Biden to win it. It's looking like he's gonna. But, Donald Trump could still somehow manage to pull away with it. But the state is definitely becoming more liberal. And in 12 years, we might actually see that. But at the moment, it is definitely a battleground state. The margins aren't that big. Donald Trump could come back if he tried to make a major play for it with what little campaign money he does have. Next up, New Mexico. I don't know why people try to classify this as a battleground state anymore. This is clearly a safe blue state. It used to be a battleground state, but it's not anymore, and it probably won't be for for the foreseeable future. So that's definitely a safe blue state. Next up, Colorado. That is also a blue state. It's not looking to not vote blue for a while. It's clearly solid blue. Hillary won it in 2016. The polls are very solid for Colorado. People like to label it likely, lean, or likely or safe. It either work. Next up is Nebraska's 2nd district, and this is kind of something I want to bring a little bit of attention to. This district voted with Trump in 2016. However, it's looking increasingly like it's going to vote with Biden. Trump could still maybe win, but it's not looking good for him too. So that's why I'm going to label that as a Biden district. And another state I'm about to get to in a minute after Texas, I will explain to you. Just wait for that. Next up, Texas, definitely a battleground state. It's traditionally Republican. Joe Biden's looking to do very well in Texas, even if he is looking to lose. If he makes a big play for Texas, he might be able to win it. But, still probably going to vote with Trump, although election maps where I would see this, I would think, okay, they don't, know what they're doing necessarily, or at least at the moment today. If it was in a couple months or in a couple weeks or days, I guess, the election's really close, where this would happen, or a couple months ago, if this were in July, I would completely, understand that, but I feel like these are probably the two most likely most appropriate characterizations. But still, I feel like if I'm going to label Arizona as a battleground, I have to label Texas as a battleground, because both are looking decent for one opponent, although it could still flip. Next up, Missouri. I was talking about this with Nebraska's set margins, and it's looking more like Joe Biden. I don't think he ever really had a shot in Missouri. It's getting much more Republican. It used to be more of a battleground state, but it really isn't at this point. Likely lean Missouri, that would make sense. Anyone who puts Missouri as a safe state, Till or anything blue, it's just not going to work. But I think that if we're going to label Nebraska second as a battleground, we have to label Missouri as a battleground. If we're going to label this as a safe state, we have to label Missouri as a safe state. Next up, Iowa. Oh, my bad. Iowa, definitely a battleground state. I haven't even checked the polls today. We might have even had a new winner in the polls. I haven't checked, so I'm not sure. But they change very frequently, not very large margins. It could really go either way. So yeah. Next up, Minnesota. This is a Democratic state. People like to label Minnesota as a swing state because it does have some Republican around here, this general area, some Republican-ish districts and congressional districts. However, it is clearly a blue state. Joe Biden's leading by a fairly good margin, and I believe that has the longest streak of voting blue. And in fact, in 1984, in the election where Ronald Reagan won 48 states, the two states that he lost, Minnesota and the District of Columbia. The District of Columbia is the most liberal area in the nation, mind you. So the fact that Minnesota is able to vote with that, even if this was 36 years ago, still showing that like Minnesota, and while it has changed, the political landscape has changed a lot. I think that Minnesota is a likely blue state this year. And that just shows how or that kind of shows like Minnesota is a likely blue state this year, and if you're going to label likely states as swing states, and there's, I don't know, it just doesn't, or battleground state just doesn't really work. Donald Trump's trying to turn this into a battleground state, trying to win here, but it's just not going to be possible. Next up, Wisconsin. I would be labeling this as a safe state. I know that sounds crazy, the Rust Belt, safe. It's a traditionally Democrat, or the Rust Belt traditionally, or is very toss-up, but like Wisconsin has voted red a lot, or is probably of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania are probably the two most Republican states of those three. And I would say, even though Joe Biden's leading by a lot in Wisconsin, just due to its past voting record, and just due to it being overall more conservative, I'm going to have to label that as a battleground. Although definitely a Joe Biden battleground. I might make a video, I don't know, where I label battlegrounds and then Joe Biden battlegrounds, Trump battlegrounds, safe Biden states, and safe Trump states. I might do that, I don't know. Next up, Michigan. I'm labeling this as solid blue. It's a likely on my map. Joe Biden's leading by, last time I checked, about 7-8%. Michigan is traditionally a pretty liberal state. I expect for Joe Biden to win. I think that if Trump were to contest this, if his campaign had more money, this might actually flip, or not flip. It might vote with Trump again. But I think that this is definitely a Biden state. It's a likely Biden state, but I feel like a lot of these states, Nevada, Colorado, Minnesota, Michigan, a lot of these states are likely Biden states, and we're labeling them as that. So if we're going to label Nevada, Minnesota, we have to label Michigan. Like I said, Wisconsin probably would be, but just because it's voting record and how it is. Then Ohio, sorry, not Iowa. Ohio is a battleground state. It has a fairly large Republican population. Or I say Republican population as if that's like, you know what I mean. They have a lot of Republicans. They have a lot of Democrats. It's very toss-up. They have a lot of rural farmland where Republicans where it tends to be more Republicans. But they also have a couple large cities. I think that this Ohio really is one of these big toss-ups. Iowa and Ohio in a state I'll get to in a while. These are the biggest legitimate toss-ups of this election. They could flip either way daily. Next up, Pennsylvania. I am sorry, my computer's like dying. I'm gonna have to label Pennsylvania as a battleground, just because it's not. It's Joe Biden is leading in Pennsylvania by the least of any of the states in the Rust Belt, other than Ohio, if you consider it part of the Rust Belt. And it's not really 100% safe at this point. Or it is not 100% safe. It's fairly safe for Joe Biden. It's on the verge of battleground and Biden. If we had battleground Biden, like Biden battleground states that are looking to go with Biden but are still battleground states, Pennsylvania would definitely be one of them. It's very close, and just because of the fact, so Pennsylvania has voted 7-5 Democratic in the last 12 elections. That's fairly Democratic, but still, like, I think that is supporting the Dems, but it does, if you think about it, show that it could go either way, even if it is statistics supporting the Dems. I think that it could go red. Donald Trump would have to do some crazy stuff to get it to go red, but it's still more or less a possibility, if a very small possibility. Honestly, anyone that labels Pennsylvania as not a battleground state this year, I agree with them. Anyone who labels it as a battleground state this year, I agree with them. It really could go either way, and just because of the fact, really, that Donald Trump was able to win in 2016, and that it does have large that coal and like fossil fuels are a large part of their population, and Donald Trump tends to win over with the fossil fuel industry. I'm going to label it as the battleground, although I 100% expect for or not 100%, I expect for Joe Biden to win by a fairly good margin, and I expect for it to be called on election night. If late on election night, but still on election night. And I expect for it to go to Joe Biden. Like I said, it really could go either way. Next up, New Hampshire. This isn't a battleground state. In my presidential election prediction, I labeled it likely. I'm not even sure if I should have done that. I feel like it could have been safe. Sure, Trump did decent in 2016. Last time I checked the polls, Joe Biden was up by like about 11%. It's gonna go to Joe Biden by a very good margin. I don't see it at all being a battleground state anymore. Maine's all. This is not a battleground state anymore. Maine statewide, no longer a battleground state. It's gonna vote with Biden. Honestly, at this point, the question is just what will the margin be? Will it be a safe margin? Will it be a likely margin? What will the margin be? And then with Maine's second district, it could go it could vote with Donald Trump. It did in 2016. On 538's forecast, it has Donald Trump winning it. Sorry, that was a little low battery notification. It has Donald Trump winning it. However, I think personally that Joe Biden will win it, but it definitely is a battleground state at this point. So I'm gonna label that district as a battleground. If I could label it as a Biden battleground, I would, but like I said, I'm not doing that right now. Maybe another video though. Next up, Virginia. In fact, this whole little strip. Virginia, that's a Democratic state. Parts of Virginia are very conservative, but up here in the DC suburbs in Northern Virginia, it's a Democratic state at heart. It's gonna vote blue. It's been a Democratic state for a somewhat decent time at this point. I don't see it not voting blue. I think that in a fantasy red wave prediction, it might maybe go red, but it's not a battleground state anymore. It really is. And next up, North Carolina, definitely a battleground. We're gonna label Arizona as a battleground. We're gonna have to label North Carolina as a battleground. Biden's up by about 3%. Been leading fairly consistently, but I do think that Donald Trump has a slight chance here. I think that Joe Biden's chances are definitely better. However, I would be somewhat surprised if Donald Trump did win North Carolina, just because of the fact that it has like the 5th largest black population in the nation. However, I do think that it is a battleground state. The margins are going to be close. I expect for Joe Biden to win it by decent margins, 3-4% for a battleground. However, it more or less is a battleground. If I could pick a Biden battleground, I definitely would. Next up, South Carolina. People like to label it as a battleground state. It isn't. Donald Trump's going to win it. It might be not big margins. It's like Nevada. It's not going to necessarily be that big of margins, but we all know who's going to win it. It's not really that close. Next up, the state of Georgia. Definitely a battleground. Traditionally conservative state. I actually expect for Joe Biden to win the state of Georgia. I would be somewhat surprised if he won. I would be somewhat surprised if he didn't. Georgia has the second largest black population in the nation, and in 2016, Trump only won about 6% of the black vote, while Hillary won, I believe, about 91%. So it's looking to be a close race in Georgia. It could go either way. This Iowa and Ohio are those three states that I was talking about that are the biggest toss-ups of this election. That really could go either way. I expect for it to vote blue faintly, but I also would be surprised if it voted blue, but I would be just as surprised if it voted red. Next up, Florida. Florida is a battleground state. It's not, there's no question about it. Florida is going to go to Joe Biden, probably. Although Florida could go to Donald Trump, it's voted correctly in the last 4 elections, and with Joe Biden heavily favored to win the election, I would expect for him to win the state of Florida. Obama won it in 2008 and 2012. Trump won it in 2016, and Bush won it in 2004. Obama was able to carry some fairly Republican counties, I believe. Me just looking at the map earlier. I was looking at the map earlier. Around this general area, there's a couple of Republican counties, not many, and like one over here, that Obama was able to carry. Not by huge margins, but by a little. And I think that Florida at this point really is a battleground state. I think it could vote with Trump. If I had that Biden battleground column, I would definitely put it in there. Not push it in there. That would be weird. I don't think that's possible because I can't push a state. So I would not push it in there. I'd put it in there. But I would definitely expect Florida to be. I expect for it to be a close race, but I also expect for Joe Biden to win it. But I think at this point it really is a battleground state. And yeah, this is my battleground map. The states of Arizona, Texas, Iowa, Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maine, 2nd District, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Those are the battleground states that we have. Also, I just want to point out that Joe Biden's already at 249 votes. If he were to win, 21 votes. If he were to win Wisconsin and Arizona, which he's looking to, he's going to win. If he were to win Pennsylvania and any other state, or just Maine 2nd, he's going to win. Genuinely, I think that this is going to be a blowout because he's looking to win this of them, but I'm not quite sure if he's going to because it's looking close in all of them. So yeah, that's the end of the video. Sorry if there's background noise. Someone's like getting our garbage. I don't know. So yeah, thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. And yeah, just thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time I make a video. So bye.